Hi, I am Charlie Cowan, RevOpsCharlie, and I'd like to welcome you to this Series A Founders Guide to RevOps. Just to set the scene, here we're talking about going from Series A to Series B. Typically, that is going from around 3 million in ARR up to 10 million in ARR. Your business may be on slightly different metrics, but that's really the framework that we're following. In this session, we are going to cover a few things. So firstly, I'm going to look at the team, and primarily I'm thinking about the go-to-market team. So what does that look like today at 3 million R, and what's that going to look like as you build it up to the team that you'll need for 10 million ARR? We can look at the jobs that you need to do as a team. What is it that you are going to need to build over these coming months and quarters to get to that Series B level? We're going to look at some of the common challenges that you might not have considered, but other companies face as they go through this scaling process. And then finally, we're going to look at RevOps, what RevOps is, how can it help at this critical stage of the growth of your business. Now, I must say, I'm going to bring in a lot of data points and some insights and thoughts, and I've not done proprietary research here. I'm borrowing from some fantastic research that has been done by Notion Capital, by Iconic, by Carter, by Scalewise. And towards the end of the session, I'll provide you with links to their individual reports, because it's great further reading that has really come together to build this session. So let's start off with the financials, just so we can set the scene and you can understand where your organization is sitting within this scale. This chart from Iconic really shows the common track for their top performers in their portfolio. And I've marked up here Series A, which typically happens around 3 million ARR. And I've marked in Series B, which typically happens around 10 or 11 million in ARR. Now, at first glance, you might go, oh, right, this is years. No, this is quarters. So you can see that for their top performers that are following the T2 D3, so that's tripling revenue for 2 years in a row, and then doubling revenue for 3 years in a row, actually just over 1 year going from A to B, going from 3 million to 10 million. Let's look at some of those numbers in a bit more detail. So at a 3 million ARR, and some of these numbers coming from Iconic, from that research, also some coming from Carter, the equity management platform. At 3 million ARR, you've probably just done your Series A. Maybe you're a little bit ahead of this, maybe you're a little bit behind that. Typically, Carter see a valuation of around 40 million at that Series A, and a funding size of 6.4 million that has come in as part of that Series A. Across the portfolio, so not just those very peak ones, Iconic is seeing 430% year-on-year growth coming up to that. So that's slightly more than the T3, because we're bringing companies in from an earlier stage. Net dollar retention, 130% of the customers that we have. We're growing those on average by 130%. The net magic number, which we'll come to later on as well, this is looking at the R or net R that you've brought in this calendar quarter versus the sales and marketing expense from the previous calendar quarter to allow those sales cycles to come through. Looking at that at 2.3x. R per FTE, 100K, and new logo R. This is important when we think about go-to-market. At this level, we should be thinking that 75% pretty much of our revenue is coming from new logos. Only about 25% is coming from upsell and expansion in our existing customers. So the mission is to go and win new business. So let's compare that with where we're heading towards at 10 million ARR. I've said in 2 years. You saw on the Iconic chart that the T2 D3 Actually, we're going to get there in just over 1 year. But let's consider what that might look like if we're taking over 2 years. We get up to 10 million ARR. We're raising Series B. At that point, pre-money valuation, 90 million, bring in another 12 million in funding. Our growth has slowed because we're scaling up. Now we're just under 200%. Net dollar retention is the same. Net magic number starts to come down as we'd expect across a company as it scales up. The R per FTE is increasing because we're becoming more efficient in terms of our sales function. And we're still getting the vast majority of our business from getting new customers through the door. So quite a bit of change in terms of the financials. In the next section, we'll start to look at the team that it will require to get us to that stage.